Jalen Carter, the Georgia defensive tackle who was caught up in the only real significant controversy this year. It happened at the scouting combine. We become aware of the charges in Georgia for racing and reckless driving tied to the incident that claimed the lives of two people who were in the other car, and the video emerged recently of him denying to police officers that he was racing, even though he eventually pleaded no contest to racing and reckless driving. He had the difficult pro day workout, and if you flunk your pro day workout, that's like flunking a take-home open book exam. Now, Chris, his agent comes out and says, and his agent's Drew Rosenhaus, that's an important point that we'll come back to, but his agent comes out and says on the record that Jalen Carter isn't going to visit any team that isn't picking in the top 10. Not going to do it. Declining all offers for visits beyond the top 10. That's a boss move.
It is.
It's a gutsy move.
It's very.
And I feel like they're trying to speak top 10 status into existence.
I
right?
hear you there.
If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Right.
We're not seeing anybody that's not in the top 10. That's a hell of a risk, because if you don't go in the top 10 and you start trickling down to teams that may have wanted to visit with you in the teens and in the 20s, they may pass because they didn't get a chance to do their full workup. They didn't get a chance to do their homework. They didn't like the attitude that was being projected in advance of the draft by Jalen Carter's camp. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, it is a boss move. You're right. I think, though, ultimately, if a guy like Jalen Carter was on the board at 15 and some team at 15 didn't get a chance to visit him, they're going to go, well, hey, crap, we didn't get to visit him, but damn, he's too good to pass up here, and we see that anyways, right? We see plenty of teams draft guys that didn't get to visit it, or we talked about somebody yesterday that had no clue, right, that they were about to be drafted by that football team. So that does happen. But Drew Rosenhaus, and to your point, Mike, I think, it's a boss move. But at the same time, it is like he's speaking it into existence or trying to stop the bleeding here a little bit, right? It's just been, like you said, a few negative stories in a row, and he's in the corner wobbly right now as far as his NFL perception goes. But this is a guy that, to say top 10, outside top 10 we won't visit, it sounds bold, but at the same time, this is a guy that really, I think, is probably the top 5 pick. I haven't gone all in on D-line yet here, so I don't have a great feel, but I know enough about him, and he's definitely one of the top 10 guys in the draft. So, and I think looked at really as one of the 5 best players in the draft, especially if you take the quarterbacks out of the conversation, he might be number 1 or 2 there. So I think that's where Drew Rosenhaus, to your point, trying to stop the bleeding, speaking into existence and trying not to overwhelm the kid. And I think he would probably say that knowing that there's a few teams that have already told him, like, hey, if he's here when we're picking at 7, 8, whatever, I'm just throwing out numbers, we're going to seriously think about taking him here. I would think he has a little feel for that before coming out and saying, what he said yesterday.
You better have a stronger feel than that if you're going to write that kind of check, though, unless your client fully understands what you're doing, because that is the most important thing an agent can do pre-draft. Give the player reliable information as to where the player is going to be picked. And the best agents have relationships deep enough and trustworthy enough that they will know what a player's floor is.
Right.
And every once in a while, out here, and I know which agents to believe and which ones are simply trying to speak a higher draft status into existence. And I'm not going to name names here, but there's one in particular. You can take it to the bank if this person says so-and-so isn't going below X. You know it, because there's been a promise made, a commitment made, and the person with the team doesn't want to undermine the relationship with the agent by lying to the agent.
Yeah,
Some people know.
Right.
And I think that this is an element, and I go back 20 years to Willis McGahee, when Drew Rosenhaus, as McGahee was sliding, remember he had the horrible ACL tear, and where is he going to go? And he was a top talent, but he's recovering from the ACL, and he gets on the phone as they get into the 20s and creates the impression that a team is calling
you. Right.
And the Bills jumped. And, of course, the Bills said that didn't influence us. And Rosenhaus later said that, yeah. But when you look at the quotes at the time, they were trying to create a little buzz.
Yeah.
They were trying to create a little chatter at a time when McGahee was in a free fall. So I'm not faulting Drew Rosenhaus for doing his job. I'm doing my job
Yeah.
to apply some scrutiny and some skepticism to the possibility he's just trying to create a floor of 10 by saying we're not coming to see you if you're not drafting in the top 10. It reminds me of what Deion Sanders said to the Giants.
Yeah, right.
When the Giants had a big test that they have the players take and all this crap that they wanted them to do. And Deion said to him, when are you guys drafting? And they told him whenever it was. It wasn't in the top 5. So he's like, you're not going to pick me. I'm not doing this. And he walked out. So, but that was supported. That was Deion. And Deion could pull that off. This is even gutsier from Jalen Carter because it's the guy who's in the middle of multiple controversies making this boss move. That's what makes it even more compelling. That the one guy that shouldn't be doing this of all the guys in the draft pool is the one who's doing it.
Yeah, I hear you there. I do. And, it is Drew Rosenhaus's job to, like you said, put the player, the guy he's representing in the best possible position to capitalize. And Drew Rosenhaus, as you and I both know, I mean, damn, he loves his players. That's for sure. And he fights for them to the bitter end. So I wouldn't think he's trying to or screwing this guy over. I would think he's got an inkling as much as Drew Rosenhaus has been around. Let's not forget, before the Bears traded away the number 1 pick, this was the guy that a lot of people thought was going to be the number 1 pick of the draft. So that's how good of a player we're talking about here, right? And then I think, Mike, when you break down the top 10 a little bit, you can start to go, wait, pick 3? That's not crazy to think Arizona could take this guy at pick 3. They need defensive linemen. You go to pick 5, the Seahawks. What? I just look at the Seahawks and go, if Jalen Carter's on the board for the Seahawks, like Pete Carroll's going to rip his shirt off and run to the podium and go, we're taking Jalen Carter. That's the way I feel about it. But the Lions, the Raiders, the Falcons, the Bears, the Eagles, that's where he has the benefit of this, and that's where I think of Drew having a feel and probably having a team or two telling him we're going to take him. There's 6 or 7 teams here that legitimately have like a real need at D-line in the top 10. So I think between that, he's pieced that together to go, he's going top 10. He knows it, and he's not going to waste the kid's time or energy, parading him around and letting all the shenanigans take over. And, he might fall to us at 25. He's stopping it right now. He's stopping the bleeding. He's going, nope, he ain't. I'm letting you know he ain't getting out of the top 10, and I'm not going to do this to this guy. At least that's how I'm taking it, Mike. I don't know if I'm right there.
It's a heck of a check to write, and you better get it right, or you're going to get criticized on the back end. He's visited with the Eagles and the Bears, and again, declining visits beyond the top 10. Rosenhaus says, I'm confident Jalen will go in the top 10. He's a good person, a family man, loves football, and is a generational talent. That's fine, but we have this off-field issue. We've got the fact that he was out of shape, couldn't complete his workout at his pro day.
Yeah.
And someone explained to me recently that, and I want to make sure I get this right because it was put very well. The risk with Jalen Carter is if you do take him high in the draft, it's a no-win proposition for you because – number one, you're taking the risk that he's not going to work out, and you've got red flags that are going to manifest themselves, and then you're in trouble with your owner for using a high pick on a guy when there were red flags. Or you take him high, and it validates whatever behaviors are giving teams concerns, if there really are behaviors giving team concerns. I mean, again, it has nothing to do with his on-field ability. I'm more troubled by the pro day workout than the off-field issue. Guys have off-field issues all the time that have nothing to do with what kind of a football player they're going to be. It's unfortunate when it happens. It's tragic in this case. It was 2 people in a different car than the one he was in who were killed, but still, it's a horrible situation. The pro day workout, when you know you're being scrutinized, when you know everyone's watching every move you make. Now, I made the point at the time, maybe the guy should have just not had a pro day workout.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe he's under a lot of stress.
Right,
maybe he wasn't working out the way he needed to.
Exactly.
And this falls on the agent, too. And
yes.
Drew, we're going to praise you here, but we're also going to raise the question of whether or not he should have even done a pro day workout.
I think it's fair.
Given everything that's going on.
Right.
We're going to be sensitive to the mental health of athletes. We have to be asking ourselves, is this guy really in the right spot where he should have been doing a pro day workout? Should it have been postponed? Should it have been canceled? Are you better off that way? And maybe this strategy is part of the cleanup on aisle 5. For the bad pro day workout. We're gonna get people to forget about the bad pro day workout, and we're gonna take the position, this guy's a top 10 pick. Forget about all that other stuff. This guy's a top 10 pick, and we're so confident of it. If you aren't drafted in the top 10, you don't even get a visit. We're not gonna come see you. And hey, I'm generally supportive of any time when a player pushes back against the draft industrial complex.
Yeah, right.
I really am.
Right.
And when you say, I'm not going to come visit you, I'm not going to work out, I'm resting on my film. I'm not showing up for the draft without an appearance fee. Anything like that goes against the honor and a privilege mindset that they try to put into all these kids' heads, that anything you're asked to do, oh, it's just a job interview. Oh, it's just a job interview. Oh, you're denying a job interview? No, I'm not going to. I've already done my interview. It's called playing college football and not getting paid for it. Everything else is above and beyond anything I'm going to do. So I like that part of it. I'm just acknowledging that it's a hell of a risk.
Sure.
When it's the one guy in the top 10, top 15, top 20 who's got the red flags that shouldn't be doing this, because if he's doing it, the others should be doing it too.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think he's, one of the few guys, though, in the draft, Mike, too, to where he's got the type of film like you're talking about where he's just going to go, wait, it speaks for itself. Like, it's nobody can block me. I'm dominant. And you had 2 Georgia guys drafted in the first round last year, and I'm better than both of them. So, I think there's a little bit of that to where, they can have a little bravado in the situation because he does have that working in his favor as far as, hey, like the coaches always say, we're not worried about the pajama Olympics and all that. Turn on the film. That's where we really want it, right? Now, you'd like to see the other stuff. And, like you said, that's where the workout, that's probably what needs to be scrutinized a little bit. Is just why he did it. And a lot of people can go, well, how could that happen? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, you explained it, right? And first off, hey, Joe sitting at home who's, 6'1", 190 pounds. You're not Jalen Carter who's 6'3", 320. There's a difference in your life. Jalen Carter, like you're talking about, he's, okay, wait, I got some legal problems and all this crap's going on. Man, I only got to work out once in the last 10 days. A guy like that works out once in 10 days or whatever. I mean, they can get out of shape in a hurry. 320 becomes 332 in a hurry for people, human beings like that. I haven't worked out. I haven't lifted. I've kind of been eating a little sloppy because, I've been all over the place dealing with stuff. And that's where you do question why work him out. Because he definitely he could have been the type of guy like we've seen other top players in the draft just go, no, screw off. I'm not working out. You see how big I am. I'm the man. And I dominated Alabama and all these great teams. Just turn on the film. He would have got away with it. Nobody would have really cared with this one. So that certainly can be questioned or scrutinized to a degree for sure, Mike.
And there's another way to consider this too. Again, if we care about the mental health of athletes, and we should, maybe this kid's just had enough of answering the same questions over and over again. And he said to Drew, and this is all speculation on my part. This is why I wanted to talk this through before I wrote about it at PFT. He could have said to Drew Rosenhaus, is there a way we can draw a line here? Is there a way? I don't want to go visit 20 teams, especially if there's a good chance these teams aren't going to draft me.
Right.
I don't want to be just a data point in how to go about getting to the bottom of difficult topics. And I just don't. I don't want to go waste my time and go through the stress of having to answer these same freaking questions over and over and over again. What can we do about it? Hey, how about this? We'll restrict all your visits to the top 10 as long as you understand. That doesn't mean you're going to be taken in the top 10, but we'll restrict it to the top 10, and that's that. And then you don't have to go through this. You don't want to go through this. You understand the risk of what happens if you're still there at number 11 and a team might not take you because they didn't get a chance to meet with you, but this is what we can do to balance all the concerns. It's possible that that's the truth here, too. We just don't know. This happens so infrequently that I think it's incumbent on us to identify all the possibilities.
Yeah,
One possibility is Drew knows damn well somebody in the top 10 is taking him, and his floor is 10.
Right.
The other possibility is what I'm saying. This guy's had enough of being asked all these questions. He's been through a trauma. He was in an incident where 2 people died, for crying out loud. He's processing that. He's got survivor's guilt. Could have been my car that crashed and I would have been the one who died. I mean, it's a 50-50 shot when you're racing and one car crashes. The other car could have crashed. So there's a lot of stuff this guy's dealing with. And I mean, hey, I wouldn't want to, again, there's a point where it stops being a job interview and it becomes exploitation.
Yeah, right.
There's a point where it's too much. You get to travel all over the country. Let me tell you something. When you travel all over the country in a compressed time frame, it sucks. Your routine is disrupted. You're constantly waiting for planes, and you're constantly staying.
It's a lot of BS.
It gets fast.
Yes, even with these guys visiting teams, it's a lot of BS. It's a lot of sitting around BS. Yeah, you think it's like, oh, the greatest day in the history of their life, right? I know everybody thinks that, and that's the story that we all want to think of. But, it's get to a facility. It's shake a few hands. It's sit in a waiting room. It's see a doctor. Sit in another waiting room. Oh, hey, they got another guy they're visiting with. Oh, head coach is talking to him now. I'll sit in the waiting room a little longer. Oh, now I get to go with my position guy. Hey, I get to meet him. He gets to ask me all the crazy questions you're talking about, right? So it could be both here. It could be, wait, we want to end that and all that crap, and we know he's going in the top 10. But, yeah, it's exhausting to your point. Mike, a quick story here, too. When I was working in New England, 2012, that very similar type of thing. Fletcher Cox was in the building. He was in the waiting room outside of Bill Belichick, Bears Najarian's office, kind of waiting to, get indoctrinated into the day. And I was, of course, part of the scouting department where I'd have to pick guys up at the airport at times and do that. So I kind of down there checking out, and he's kind of like in a bad mood. And he's, hey, what's up? What's going on, man? I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm here. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm not going to be on the board when you guys are picking. and I looked at him, and I went, yeah, you're probably right. But you don't know. Maybe we'll trade up, whatever. But to your point, yes, it can become exhausting. I know it's an awesome experience or everything, and everybody thinks that, but you said it right. Traveling, hotels, sit here, do this, prodded, pushed, grab your shoulder, grab your knee, mental gymnastics, all of that. It wears young human beings out, and I think that's part of what probably Drew Rosenhaus is trying to stop too.
And I like the fact, again, when someone pushes back against the machine, and Drew may piss some people off that he has relationships with. Oh, come on. You mean you can't tell your guy to come see me? Come on. We go back 30 years. Come on. Do me a favor here. They want me to get him in the building. They want to ask him these questions. They're thinking about trading up to get your guy if he's there at 7, 8, or 9, right? They're thinking about doing that, but they're not going to do it if they don't get to meet with him.
Yeah,
and I think that
right.
that they've made it clear, hey, you got to be in the top 10. You want to trade up, you got to trade up before you get a chance to see him, which I think is unrealistic because a lot of times a team isn't going to trade up until the pick that they're trading up for is on the clock, because if you trade up too early, then people are like, oh, who'd they trade up for? We better get in front of them to get the guy that we think they traded up to get, and then you don't get the guy you traded up specifically so that you could draft. So I like, all in all, I like it. It's a calculated risk. He's the last guy at the upper echelon of this year's draft who should be doing it, but I like it, and I think more guys should do it. That's my big takeaway. It stands out to us because no one ever does it. The message is maybe they should.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's good on. I think ultimately, Drew probably has the feel, and then Drew's protecting his guy. As you mentioned, he's protecting it. He's not going to let this be he might fall to 24 because the off-field stuff and having him, go around the country like a crazy man. So he's stopping that. He's not going to let everybody dissect every little thing the guy's done in his whole life. And respect to Drew Rosenhaus really for that. It's a bold move, like you said, but he's been around the game and been around too long for me not to think he's got an inkling that he knows there's no way he's going past number 10, and he's confident in saying that.
But again, this is the guy that pretended to be on the telephone to get the Bills to take Willis McGahee. And, hey, you represent your client. You get him in the best possible spot. You get him drafted as high as possible, whatever the case may be. We all have a job in this business. And I like the creativity. I like the assertiveness. You mentioned the Fletcher Cox story. He was there because his agent told him to go.
Yeah, right.
The agent, in a lot of cases, just says, here's the visits you're taking, and there's no opportunity for the player to say, well, why? Why am I going there? He just goes because that's what the agent said to do. So I like the fact that someone is standing up to the system. I just recognize there's some risk when it's the guy who has been standing out for not good reasons. The one guy, who else other than Stetson Bennett, who also a Georgia player, but who else has been standing out during this process? Bennett got arrested for public intoxication. The arrest video popped up last night on TMZ. Other than that, no one's really standing out, Chris, that I know of, as somebody that's making waves and making headlines.
No,
Jalen Carter's the one.
Right. No, he's the one. He is. He's the one that's, certainly been the, a little bit of the question mark in the top 10, or where does it go, and how does the NFL view his personal stuff and all of that. But he's a phenomenal football player. And I think the reason he can say that is because he felt like there was a chance he was probably going to go number 1 if the Bears stayed at 1. And like we talked about, there's a lot of guys, a lot of teams here in the top 10 that have a real need for that position, and we'll see where it goes. But good luck to him, and hopefully he can get all this stuff straightened out.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.